All right, so this is a translation and a discussion of Pliny's letter to Tacitus, book 6, letter number 20, and chapters 1 through 2. So let's go ahead and get started. So Gaius Plinius in the nominative, and then the S is going to stand for salutem dicit, but then it is abbreviated, obviously, says greetings to his Tacitus, or his own Tacitus, if you would like. Remember that the first letter that we had read was 616, which is about the account of the eruption of Vesuvius, but more so focusing on the death of his uncle, and this letter is going to focus on his own experience in that cataclysm. So ice, you say, usually whenever you see the form of that verb, it is the third person. He says or he said, but here it's going to have obviously the S, meaning then you say. That is a verb of mental action, and so we're going to look for an accusative subject, and we have it right away with the te. So you say that you, and then your infinitive, which is the oxymoronic finite infinitive, because if it has a subject, we will translate it not as the infinitive to verb, but as obviously a finite verb. Since ice is going to be present tense, so we're starting off right there, and the infinitive cupere is a present active infinitive, it is going to be at the same time. You say that you desire, you want, cupio cupere, to learn. But first, let's deal with what kind of you, and that gives us opportunity to deal with the rest of that second line. So you, having been adduced, having been interested, having been led to. In other words, he is implying that his first letter that he sent about the death of his uncle causes Tacitus to be interested in his own experience. So you say that you, having been interested, having been adduced by the letters which, and obviously it is going to, as a relative pronoun, agree in number, plural, plural, and in gender, feminine, feminine. So the letters which I wrote, I did write, I have written, to you, driving it on. Exigenti is from ago, agere, egi, actus, and that participle, the present active participle, modifying in the dative case the tibi, tells them that indeed in that letter previously, 616, it was requested. So the letters which I wrote to you, driving it on, urging it, asking about it, concerning the death of my uncle, you say that you, the one having been adduced, desire to learn. And to learn non solum, not only the fears, but truly also the catastrophes, the disasters, which I, having been left behind at Maecenas, endured. Pharaoh ferre tulilatis can mean carry, bring, but it also can mean like bear, as in to bear the load, as in to endure. And so that is what we have here with a perfect subjunctive. And so quos is taking as its antecedent the metus and the casus. And so he says that you desire to learn not only the fears, but truly also the disasters, the catastrophes, which I, having been left behind at Maecenas, endured. A perfect subjunctive in which you have the perfect stem, pertul, which is obviously, you can get rid of the prefix, and then erim, eris, erit. For I, having gone in, having begun, he is implying that at the end of the letter 616, he was about to begin telling about his own experience and the experience of his mother, but then he cut it off, and that's exactly what it says. For I, having started in, having gone into the story implied, I broke it off, or I pluperfectly had ruptured, had broken it off, as it were. And then he quotes, obviously, from Book 2 of the Aeneid, in which, remember at the beginning of Book 2, Aeneas is about to tell the story of the downfall of Troy and the Trojan War and the loss of his wife and all of those most horrible things. And this is obviously the most horrible thing that he has ever lived through. And so it says, quamquam animus meminissent, although the mind shudders to have remembered. Now remember, pun intended, that meminisse is one of those three verbs that are all memini, and of course odi, and then quapi, defective and only have perfect systems forms. Remember that the first principal part usually ends with o because it's a present first person singular, whereas here it is a perfect first person singular, and then the second principal part, which is normally a present active infinitive, here it's going to be a perfect active infinitive, hence why meminisse and then Odyssey, and then Koi. And so on the end of these perfect stems, remen, ode, and quape, you can only put perfect endings e, is, it, or pluperfect endings ram, ras, rat, or future perfect endings ero, ris, rit. So although the mind shudders to have remembered I will begin, if I see I long e, future will be in, we all know the equation of a long e plus an m, or it could be the present subjunctive of we fear a giant liar, and so it would then be as an independent subjunctive, let me begin, either one. We start off with an ablative absolute in the beginning of chapter 2 here in this letter, with my uncle having set out. It is a perfect passive looking participle, that's why we don't say having been, because it is deponent proficiscor, proficisci, profictusum, ipse. Now it could be myself, if your subject is I. It could be yourself if the subject is you, or it could be himself if the subject is he. I know that it is masculine, and so I go and I find my verb, and there it is. Pendo, pendere. It can mean several different things. It means like to pay, as in to pay a debt. It can mean to hang, like a pendant does, as this is hanging from my neck. Or it could, in the instance here, mean to spend, as in spend money or spend time. And that's exactly what, indeed, we have there. And so it is perfect tense. And so now we know that that is myself, as it is obviously the intensifying modifier of your nominative implied subject I, e is the it. So, with my uncle having set out, I myself spent my remaining time with my studies, with my homework, if you would so wish. And literally it means zeals or enthusiasms, but that's what studying is. It is your enthusiasm of learning things. And for this reason, and ideo means for this reason or therefore, if you would like. Often what you need to do is to obviously consult the part of the book that is right below that you can see here that has all the vocabulary up there at the top, and here you can see ideo for this reason, or just simply therefore. And so for this reason I have remained behind. Remember that in the previous letter that his uncle had given an opportunity to go, and he has obviously declined it. Soon a bath. We know that he is implying I took a bath, but it's just merely a style of getting all those things in there in real quick succession, so you just leave out unnecessary parts in ellipsis. So soon a bath, and then a ascendaton, a dinner, ascendaton, a nap or sleep. And here the sleep is modified by inquietus, unrestful and short. And so therefore we leave out any sort of verb, and it's just one quick activity after the other. And so soon, I took a bath. He just says a bath. I ate dinner. He just says dinner. I took a nap. He just says sleep, as it were. So then we have praekeserat. Praekeserat is going to be from that verb that we have seen so often, kedo, kedere, kesi, and then kesus. And often we can put all kinds of prefixes on it. It just merely means to go. And so if you've got rekedo, recede. If you've got prokedo, proceed, as in go forth and so forth and so on. And here it's going to be precede. And so therefore it is in the pluperfect, with the pluperfect ending, the perfect stem. And so the shaking of the earth, the tremor of the land, had preceded through the duration of many days. Duration of time and extent of space is always expressed in accusative case. And so he's indicating that obviously for several days previous, as they are used to, they obviously have all kinds of these various different tremors and or mini earthquakes. And so he says, scary, that's what formidolosis means, filled with formidableness, as in filled with scary. And so scary less, or we would say in English, less scary since having been accustomed in Campania. And so therefore, they don't really worry about all these little tremors that they have, all these earthquakes, because they're used to it. They are in a very geologically active area. Truly, however, we have vero, illa nocte, in the ablative, on that night, it gained strength. Invaluate, it became strong, from invalesco, invalescere, which is an inceptive verb, and so therefore that's why we translate it as to begin to become strong, as it were. And so here in the perfect tense, it became strong on that night truly in such a way that as a result. That word ita is going to tell to us that this ut clause is then going to be a result clause. That as a result, all things were believed, all things were trusted. Or as I look in here and see what they would suggest, or credo credere, and they don't even give it to you, but nevertheless, it is all things believed, all things are trusted, not to be moved, and so it's kind of almost as though it translates as all things seemed not to be moved, but to be overturned. So normally when they are experiencing these minor tremors, yeah, things shake around a little bit, but it is so strong on that night, illa notte, that indeed stuff is overturned. The table falls down because it's shaken so much, or the books come off of the shelf, or the pictures off of the wall, and so forth and so on. And so these are the present passive infinitives, not to be moved, but to be overturned. And so that's it for the first 2 chapters. Keep studying, make sure you learn your vocabulary, and you understand the structure of the Latin itself.